Anita, how's your mental health?
Questionable at all times. You know this.
Yeah, how's the mental health of your children?
Also a little bit tricky. Can I tell you my experience in trying to find therapists for myself and my kids, Mel?
Yes, please.
Okay, this is how it goes. You ask around your friends and your family for a referral for somebody who's nearby. You finally find somebody who sounds like they might work for your family. You give them a call and you find out that A, they're not accepting new patients, or B, they have a huge wait list. So you start over again and you ask people if they know anybody who would be a good therapist and a good fit. Finally, you find one, you go and you meet with them, and you figure out that you don't actually like them that much. But it's been so much work to find somebody who you can go to in your area that you're kind of stuck with them. Well, do you have any ideas for how to get around this?
I do because guess what? I've actually had some therapists that I have found on my own, which involves what you're saying. Sometimes I remember one time I was like 3 hours in the bathtub on my phone looking
Yeah.
through websites. I was such a prune at the end. But I have also had the experience with working with BetterHelp. And it was like, I don't want to say too good to be true, but because it is true, but it's like amazing because I was matched with my therapist within 24 hours.
And you didn't have to go through all of that other ridiculous process of trying to find somebody. And here's the cool thing too, is if that person didn't work out for you, you can just switch and say, and it's not like you're committing to another years long search for somebody who you're going to jive with.
It's true. And I lucked out, or maybe just BetterHelp is really good at matching people together because I never had to change my therapist. I loved her. Perfect fit for me. And I know that some of our friends have used BetterHelp and they've had to change therapists, and boom, same day, you can change.
Easy peasy.
You can ghost your therapist. Get a new one.
I love this idea. BetterHelp is one of our sponsors. If you use our promo code trybetterhelp.com/WWDN, you get 10% off your first month. And we totally recommend it.
Yes, get some therapy. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN. Anita,
Welcome home.
thanks. Went on a trip,
Saw some things.
saw some things, saw some people. Our good friend, the good doctor, the Ivan, the Misner, and some musician friends. It was so fun. No drama for me.
Ate some tacos.
Yes, a lot of tacos. Austin,
Good.
you are a great place. I approve of your airport because your rental car situation is on the property and security's easy. Thank you.
You guys, this is like a real thing. Mel has a real list of airports that she doth and doth not approve of.
Mm-hmm. This morning at like 5 in the morning, probably for Anita, I texted her and I said, I approve of this airport.
Yeah.
It's a big
Which was
deal.
funny.
Like, I'm serious for me. I made some new skateboard friends and roller skate friends. I like went to skate parks and just like made friends with random strangers, and now they're going to come visit me and I will not get murdered. Don't worry.
Okay. I'm glad about that, I think. That sounds scary, but okay.
Guess what?
What?
My anniversary is this week.
It is.
I
It's coming up.
forgot.
I wondered if you went there because of that, if you like left town because of that, or if it just was unrelated.
I'm not really quite present enough in the head with time and dates to have remembered. It was like today that I remembered.
No.
No, I just went because my friend was playing a show in Austin and she's like, come stay with me in my room. And I was like, okay, get me out of here.
Bye. Good. I'm losing my mind. So just there's that.
Okay.
Just ready for the holidays and the craziness that comes with the holidays to be done. So, but it's not going to be done quite yet. And the kids are out of school next week. And so it's just going to get worse before it gets better, I'm afraid.
Okay. Well, may the
Yeah.
force be with you.
Thank you.
Blessings.
Namaste.
We are short on brain cells, so that's all we got for you before the interview.
Maybe they appreciate that. Maybe they're also feeling short on brain cells. How are your holiday waiting through the holidays going? Let us know. If you need to reach out in the Widow Wives Club, we're there. There's been lots of posts about the holidays. And so reach out there and we can support each other there. And speaking of that, join the Widow Wives Club.
And also, speaking of Widow Wives Club, thank you to those who have participated in the various holiday activities that we've had, especially supporting some fellow widows in financial need. Thank you to everyone who's done that. You make such a big difference, and you have helped some hearts be a little bit less heavy right now.
Yeah, we were able to help several widows, and they passed along their very, very sincere gratitude to everybody who made that possible. And also thank you to the people coordinating the card and the gift exchanges. That's gonna be a really great thing, I think, as well. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks everyone for helping us make this community this way, because it's been a year.
Mm-hmm.
So we couldn't do it without you with everything. We're kind of just like, yeah, Anita and I right now, it's like 9:30 p.m.
I know. Does it just make you feel a little crazy that you're like, and next year is just going to be more of the same thing? Like we just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again.
I am planning on next year being better than this year for me, because my dad won't die again on January 1st. He already died.
Probably. I think that's a safe bet.
Yeah. And I'm going to protect myself from any nefarious characters, because I will only keep my same 5 safe people in my circle.
Except for you invited random people from Texas.
Okay, but like they're like female roller skaters. So
okay.
I actually met probably my my twin there, which was really fascinating. And
that's fun.
I'm like, I understand you. It was pretty funny, but
okay. Well, make sure you check out the Patreon if you want to keep the podcast going. This is like the most low energy intro of our lives. Check out the Patreon. It's patreon.com/WWDN.
Whoa, this is Delilah on 100.3 FM. And now we were going to play for you Michael Bolton.
I wish. We're going to do the Patreon shout out for the people, for our widow besties and above. We do a Patreon shout out every week. Thank you so much for the support you guys give us. Like, seriously.
Can you form sentence?
No, I can't.
I wish everybody could see your face. I have the recording. Maybe I'll post it on social media.
I'm not even wearing pants right now.
It's okay. I can't even see below your shoulder, so
that's
whatever.
Good.
I will clarify for her because she's very tired. Patreon is a way to support the podcast, and we have 4 tiers starting at the $5 level and up. But at the $10 level, our patrons get a shout out in episode in addition to ad-free content. And it just goes up from there for the cool stuff. So we're going to do our Patreon shout out right meow.
All right. To our first secret dead husband, we say, rocking around the widow tree, have a nope. Have a holiday.
I just had a visual of a Christmas tree with a bunch of like widow ornaments on it. Oh. I don't, whatever that looks like. Constance Dahlbeck.
David Kelly.
Don Satterwhite.
Emily Wesenberg.
Evelyn Flores.
Gail Bell.
Heather Mullins.
Ivan Meisner. Hugs.
Chef Ivan Meisner, mind you. Kat.
Krista Waite.
Maya Glasser.
Neil Hooper.
Becky Ziba.
Sam Finlayson.
Amber Vela.
Amy Hartman Martell.
Amy Neal.
Make me salsa. Ashley Hahn.
Wait, I want salsa. Wait. Amy, will you make me salsa? Barbara Schneeberger.
Brandy Younger.
Brittany Pedro.
Chris Steffen.
Cindy Wilkerson.
Danielle Katterberg.
Deb, not a Debbie Downer.
Dennis Brazo.
Jean Marie Massey.
Jen O'Brien.
Jenny Taylor.
Jennifer Beal.
Jennifer Brown.
Jenny Wang.
Jesse Johnson.
Carol Schultz.
Laura Aguirre Penner.
Lauren Old.
Lisa Hardman Powell.
Lou Clausen.
Auntie Marie Hoffman.
M.K. Anderson.
Meg Murto.
Patricia Wiest.
Rachel Barbosa.
Sarah Morris.
Simone Fu.
Sunshine Heaven.
The Sylvia.
Amy Burke.
Anne Drennan.
Anna Tracy.
Audrey Henniger.
Christina Scambato.
Christine Anderson.
Thank you. She hosted a widow soiree. Cindy Raynaud.
Our other aunt, Connie Remich.
Dawn Barber.
Debbie Fells.
Deborah Westwood.
Diana Becker.
Doris Reichel.
Eileen Stevens Dem.
Emily Toledo.
Eric Vandermeulen.
Aaron Posick.
Gabe Lozano.
Gia Benoit.
Gina Haas.
Ian Sini.
Ileana Bell.
Jackie.
The Jane.
Another secret patron.
Jennifer Davis.
Jenny Armstrong.
Jenny Barrow.
Jenny Dippold. Hello.
Welcome. Jocelyn Milo.
Johnny Walker.
Judy Malkin.
Yay. Julie Stevenson. That was like the least heartfelt yay of my life.
Well, okay, Judy, just so you know, she was super stoked. We are just stoked that we see Judy's name where we see it. Only Judy knows what we're talking about. Don't worry. Julie Stevenson.
Karen Ochoa.
Karina Jacobo.
Kathy Murray.
Katie Getz.
Katie Radcliffe.
Kara Scara.
Kevin Ferry.
Chris Morgan.
Laura Keeley.
Yes! Lindsay Kanopka.
Well, I get to say Marjorie Lewis, and I'm also stoked about that.
You better be. Marianne Hand.
Marion.
Mariana Hama.
Marion McDonald.
Mari McGowan.
Melissa Bowers.
Melissa Hancock.
Naomi Brown.
Rebecca Olemaker.
Robin Flam.
Stacy Saywert.
Tammy Terravest.
Tara Wallace.
Trenton Thompson.
Ugly Sweater Valerie Packer.
And finally, we have
The Grinch Stole Wendy.
The Grinch Stole Wendy.
Yay!
Thank you again. That's all we can say.
Everyone, sorry that we're tired and short today, but you might be glad. Anita is ready to go to bed, I can tell. I am going to go edit this and get this out to y'alls.
First, I'm going to go get my kids who are screaming out there still, and they're not in bed.
Oh, I haven't even heard them. They're screaming quietly.
That's good, at least, I guess. I'll take that as a win.
Okay, everybody. We hope that you love this episode today.
I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
We're two tired young widows. We're just trying to help you figure out, widow.
We
do
now. This episode is sponsored by the Misner Family Foundation in memory of Elisabeth Misner.
Sometimes we assume that unless we had a huge life insurance payout, we don't really need to know anything about investments or even finances. But guess what? A little knowledge of finances is critical for all of us. Maybe your partner was in charge of that stuff, and now you find yourself making all the decisions. Maybe you're mad about that. Maybe I am. Nicole from the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast is here to help. She tackles financial literacy by telling the stories of women and widows and finance experts, and shares the lessons they've learned as certified financial planners. Whether you know a lot and feel confident in your financial decisions or feel unsure about all of that stuff, there is more to learn. Listen and subscribe to the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast on all podcast platforms. This ad was paid for by Rockhouse Financial, an SEC registered investment advisor. Mel, it's everybody's favorite day.
What day is that?
We're going to talk about things that people sometimes don't like to talk about, and that's like money. Are you ready?
Yeah, because you know, it's so funny. We always talk about death, which is what like normal people don't like to talk about, but we like to talk about it. But now we're people with death that are going to talk about money. But first, we're not going to talk about money.
We're going to ease you into it because we can't be jumping right into that. Can we? No.
No.
Today we have with us Tina Murphy. Hi, Tina.
Hello, ladies. How are you?
We're
scared
pretty good
to talk about money. I'm just kidding.
I promise it won't be painful.
Where are you joining us from?
I am from Missouri.
Where in Missouri?
So, yeah, I'm in Columbia, Missouri. So there is a middle to our country besides the East and the West Coast, just so everyone knows. We do have some of us in the middle.
You're like kind of in the middle, both East, West, and North, South, too. Kind
yes, like literally right in the middle.
Yeah. Isn't Missouri the show me state?
It is. Wow, that's impressive.
I don't even want to know what it's show me about. Like,
I think
show me the money.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's more about proving something, not like the flashing kind of show me stuff.
Oh, not like Girls Gone Wild.
No, not like that. So it's more of like if you say something, they're like, show me it's like more of the show me the evidence, like
Okay.
prove it to me kind of thing. Yeah.
Interesting.
Very.
All right, Tina, you're one of us. And I'm so
Yes.
sorry that you get to be one of us.
The club nobody wants to be a part of.
I know. Why don't you back up and tell us a little bit about your person and let us know who you are? Let us get to know you a little bit.
Yeah. So my name is Tina Murphy, and I met my husband Jamie in college. He actually came up to me at a fraternity party. He asked me to dance to YMCA, and I was like, dude, I don't dance to that song. But one of my friends came up to me later. I was like, do you realize he was hitting on you? And I was like, oh, really? Sorry. Forgot about that. A little clueless there. And so we dated for about 2.5 years in college. And then when we graduated college, we were like just too young to get married. So we separated for a couple of years and ran back into him at one time. Wasn't good timing for me at that point. And I wound up, and this is going to date me back because I looked up his best friend's last name in the phone book.
Whoa.
Right. I know. Like my kids probably don't even know what that is. Right. And because his friend's last name was Zavolnik. I had no idea how to spell it, but I knew where he lived. So I looked it all up and I just kind of skimmed through it and wound up drunk dialing him one night. And we got back together. And a year later, we were married.
Wait, I want to hear this drunk call that you made to his friend, right? You're like, hey, where's Jamie? Do you know how I get a hold of Jamie?
Well, I knew they were living, so I knew they were roommates.
Oh, okay.
They were roommates. So I did know how to that was my way of getting
You were
in,
like private investigationing.
I did. It was so that's how I did it. And I had no idea how to spell his friend's last name, but
Nobody
I just
knows how to spell that name.
No. But I knew the address because back then they had street addresses listed in that. So I just looked that up and called him up.
You're like, let's get back together. And he's like, okay. Then you got married.
Well, the crazy thing is he had another girl there at the time. And I had asked him, I said, is it a bad time? He's like, no. He goes, but can I call you tomorrow? And I'm like, you just told me it's not a bad time. And he goes, well, kind of is. And I'm like, too bad. That was our get back together story. And we were married for 10 years. The thing about Jamie is he could talk your ear off. Oh my gosh. I had a friend that was super duper quiet and very didn't talk a lot, but he could get her to talk. It was crazy. And I was like, he could just get going. And if you ever came to our house for a party, you better eat beforehand, even though you're coming over for dinner, because he's going to start telling stories and it's going to be 8:30. And you're like, are you going to start cooking yet? Because we would grill and he would just be getting there going and, drinking wine. And so it was just, yeah. So you better bring something and snack beforehand or bring some appetizers because you will be starving if you wait until he just serves you. Now he's going to give you a good spread, but eventually, yeah. And wine glasses, he was notorious for spilling wine his breaking wine glasses and everything. So those are some fun Jamie stories.
He sounds like a character.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And we have 2 boys and I can see him in each of them in different ways. And I love to say, oh my gosh, you're exactly like your dad in that way. Or you're exactly, tell my younger one, this is a spitting image of, Jamie or your dad and stuff like that. So that's always fun to talk to them about.
What happened to Jamie?
He was out playing with the boys and I was at work at the time. It was homecoming. It was one of my favorite days at my work. He was outside playing with the boys and just suddenly collapsed in front of them. Luckily, the neighbors were there to help out. It was very strange because my husband was 6'2", 160 pounds, worked out every single day. And it didn't make any sense. So like when I got the call from the neighbor, I knew, you just know that someone like him doesn't collapse and make it back. Like if it had been like a car accident, I think I would have been like, please let him be okay, please let him. But I just knew, it wasn't good. And we found out later that he had an enlarged heart, so he had hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and it's something that my kids can develop, and it's something that can just all of a sudden like develop. So throughout their entire lives, they could still develop this particular gene. That's what happened. And
How old were your sons at the time? Sorry.
they were 6 and 9.
Oh, so like I bet that was really confusing for them also.
Well, and the crazy thing is there was a lady that was another teacher at my school, and her and I did not get along at all. But I had to call her because I knew no other widows. And I was like, what do I tell them? And it was just like, yeah, Dad's not coming home. He didn't make it. And he's just like, you just got to be as honest as possible, like using real terms. Like I didn't say he went to heaven, because like that's, especially for a 6 and 9-year-old, it's a very obscure, even for us as adults, it's a very vague statement, and I was very open and honest about, Dad's not coming home.
What year was this?
2013.
So 9 years.
Yeah, it's October of 2013 was when he passed away. So just pretty recent of going past the 9-year mark.
Okay, so now does that mean your youngest is 18?
Yes.
Do math. Yes, I did
It
math.
is. Yes.
That was impressive, Mel.
That is impressive. Good job. Yeah.
It was a fluke.
And you said you couldn't do money and numbers. Come on. Yeah, he is a senior. So I have a senior and a freshman now. That's how old they are now.
And I'm sure that it's been like super easy being a widow and being a parent on your own, and you just like figured it out immediately, and you're like, we got this. Like, I was born for this.
Yeah, like who doesn't know how to handle grief and parenting and running their kids around to everything? I mean, come on. That was cake. Cake.
Tina, were you working at the time, or were you a stay-at-home mom? Tell us your situation when your husband died.
Yeah, so I had been I was a business teacher. So I was teaching personal finance at the high school level. I had been doing that for 16 years. And at the beginning of that particular school year, we had found out through the rumor mill that one of the teachers in my department was going to be let go at the end of the year. Before my husband had passed away, I was already like looking like how I could get maybe certified in another area so that my best friend wasn't going to get cut. And because she was the lowest person on our totem pole. And so when my husband passed away, knowing this previous information and having life insurance, I automatically decided that I was going to leave teaching at the end of the school year. Because I was like, one, I knew my friend was going to get her job cut. And I was like, I'm financially fine now. And two, I was like, I don't want to, I was driving 30 minutes the opposite direction of where my kids were going to school. So, I made it through the school year, but it was exhausting for sure. So, and then I left that and took part-time jobs. I actually stayed with the teaching stuff. I started tutoring student athletes at the University of Missouri. And I also taught college at the all-women's college here called Stevens College for several years also. So I still kept in with the teaching because I think as widows, there's like so many parts of us. Like when my husband passed away, I was no longer a wife. And I had no idea who I was anymore. Yet I still was a teacher and I was a mom, but the mom thing just like blew up. So I wanted to keep my teaching identity somehow so that I could, I don't know, feel like I was something for me than just a mom. Not that I don't love being a mom, just not only a mom.
I think it's so interesting. And I love that you're kind of telling us some of these details about your story, because it was like, it sounds like it was a lot of different things. So again, it's not like you just figured it out immediately. It was like, well, we'll do this and we're going to do this. And I don't know what I want to do. And I'm not sure what I want to be. And I've lost part of myself and I'm going to keep this part of myself. And, you know, it's just a lot of exploration.
Oh, absolutely. And I think those first couple of I found the first couple of years was just about surviving. You know, it was like, how do I get one foot in front of the other? And luckily, like when I had my job as a teacher, I mean, I'm just going to say it, I was a freaking rock star teacher. So I could just go in there and pull something out my butt. I mean, literally, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow, but I'll figure it out. When I would walk in, I was like, I was still able to teach things. Now, do I think it was this high quality? No, because some days I'm like, I'm just too tired or whatever. But I had the best kids. They were so, so supportive. And that year was really hard because 2 days after my husband passed away, a student also died. So as I'm grieving, I was helping 4 high school boys deal with the death of their friend that they had been through. The 2014 class has a lot of tragedy that they had gone through, and I was there for them on those monumental things. And then they turned around and did that for me too. So yeah, that was a rough year.
That's a lot. Oh my gosh. Sorry.
Yeah. But you know, it was a lot, but it was strangely it was so helpful on both sides because I'm leaning on 4 high school kids who are going through a very similar situation as I am. I mean, of course, every loss is different. I mean, they lost a 17-year-old friend who I had as a student, but there were things that we could talk about because grief is just something that, you got to work through together, and not everyone understands it. There were things that happened. Like I wasn't there when my husband died, and the student Jared, he was there when Tajon, the student, died. And I was like, man, I wish I was there. And he goes, Miss Murphy, you do not wish you were there.
Yeah.
So we could talk about things about what was different and how my situation was similar and different. And neither one was good. I always feel like even with people that have cancer, when they see their spouse, it's long, drawn out, awful. One time my sister said, well, I'm just glad that didn't happen to yours, because I think your situation is better. And I'm like, I'm going to remove the word better. It's just different.
That's so funny you're talking about that, because that's what Anita and I talk about a lot. And on the podcast too, we for a while asked almost every guest the same thing. Would you trade what you had, or is one better or is one worse? Because we're both sudden deathers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just different is what we've come to conclude.
Yeah. And I think because the people that had the cancer, or a long-term illness that they watched someone go through. They had the tragedy of watching someone go through that. But they also knew to take every moment for this could be the last. And so they cherished it a little bit more. Well, I think with us, it's you didn't appreciate the last night, right? And you're like, I didn't know that was my last night. And you start beating yourself up for that because I should have paid more attention to him that night. I can still visually see that I was over at the neighbor's house chatting with the neighbor instead of being with my husband that last particular night, not chatting with him enough. And you just go down this rabbit hole of beating yourself up. And I think that's where, like I said, those first couple of years, you're you're trying to just survive. And then when I got to like year 3 and 4, that was like a whole nother level to the grief, because then I started like beating the crap out of my new widow self for not doing things better, or yelling at my kids too much. Oh, something, I think this
It's
might
like,
be
wait a
resonating with somebody.
second, are you telling my story or your story now?
Are you in my head right now, right?
Because
Yeah.
guilty of all of those things at this
Right.
moment. So keep going, telling my
Yeah.
story, and tell us how it's going to resolve.
Well, and I think it's then because you also start feeling resentful of your current situation. I mean, there were times where I hated my life. And I don't, not in a way that like I wanted to end my life, but I hated it. Like, and I think society kind of tells you like time heals things. And I'm like, okay, it's been effing 3 years now, and I'm still not over this shit. Like, what the hell? So I just went down a huge rabbit hole. Like, I was judging myself. I thought I should be over this by now. So because I'm not over it by now, there must be something wrong with me, right? So I became what I say a self-help junkie, because I needed to be more positive, and that would fix me. Like, it's got to be that I'm not positive enough. And I am glad that I went down that self-help journey, but I also realized there's a lot of things the word toxic positivity is a word that a lot of people use. And it's just more about the fact that we have to always be happy, happy, happy. But the problem is, life is not freaking happy all the time. Even before my husband died, life was not always happy all the time. And so I think we have this belief that we have to just like love life, and we have to be, mantras all the time of like rainbows and butterflies. And it's like, no, that's not real life. And when I was able to understand that I can think that my life sucks and I can learn to get better, made such a huge difference in my perspective. And it's also understanding that part of my coaching program is I teach people you don't have to be miserable forever. And that was my biggest fear, is I was 3 years out. And if I'm still miserable now, oh my God, am I going to be miserable forever? But you don't have to be that way. But there's multiple things that you have to do, is understand your grief, understand that grief takes time. There is no time limit to it. And understand that you have to forgive your past widow self for some of her choices, because she was doing the absolute best that she could. And also watch the words you're saying about yourself in your grief. And once I started to do those 4 things, whoosh, my healing just turned around.
I love that you just said all of those things, because it is so easy to judge ourselves, or to be upset that we even have emotions and feelings, or to beat ourselves up for what we didn't know. And I actually have been doing some meditations on Insight Timer, and like they have different topics, and yep. One of them was really helpful, because it's like we're in the widow world a lot, and so we hear a lot of the same things, and it's nice when you hear certain phrases that you might perceive differently. And this one meditation, I think it was about like forgiving yourself or confidence. I don't even remember. I just was hurting from something and was like, play something please and help me heal. And it said, I forgive myself for what I did not know before. And for some reason, it just lifted a lot of things. And it's like, how does that apply to widowhood? all over the place. We're learning as we go. We're learning every day. So I love that you came to that realization and could start on your healing journey once that you realized that it didn't have to control your life.
I also think it's really an intriguing idea that your healing journey was taking place before that. And this was just one step in that. It's not like you weren't healing and then all of a sudden you were healing, because that almost sounds, it almost puts those first 3 years in a negative light, you know, like those were wasted, quote unquote. But of course they weren't wasted. Like that was a lot of time learning and figuring out. And you have to go through those things. You can't skip. It's like, we were talking to somebody about how there's another stage of grief, and it's where you realize that you can't like outwork your grief, and you cannot figure that stage out until you've already done those things. It's the same thing. You have to go through that. So it's not like those are wasted. It's not wasted time either.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's like, I remember when I was a year out, I was like, so wished that I could have like a DVR, you know, it's like, you could just like pause it and like fast forward through that part, but you can't. But I think what did happen is what opened up is I went from judging my healing process to accepting my healing process. Like, I wasn't saying things like, I'm doing this wrong. And I was like, oh, like, this is what healing looks like. And I'm like, even though it's 9 years out, like, it still hurts like hell. Like, there are certain days that still hurt. Like, I'm going to bawl my ass out at, you know, my son's graduation because his dad's not there, you know, like, it's just not fair. And I'm going to allow myself to just cry. What's different though, is that if I'd have been 3, 4, 5 years out, I would have been judging that part of me saying, oh my God, just like get over it. Like, you should be over this by now. You should not be crying.
So how do you go from teaching to helping people with money? Because we talked about that you do that. So I'm curious, how did that segue? How did your life turn towards that? And tell us about it.
So I became I learned about this program where this woman was certifying widows to become widow coaches. Now, this is funny because what I did is I broke down. So this is my money mindset. I took her price, what she was doing, and divided it into how many classes we were going to be doing and compared that to a counseling session, because I'm like, okay, I don't even know anything about this coaching thing. Do I really want to spend this amount of money on a program and not get anything out of it? But I was like, oh, this is going to be equal to about $150 per session, which is what a counseling session is. So for me as a money person, I needed to make sure I was getting the most bang for my buck, even when I chose a coaching program. But I did her 12-week coaching program, and I started to understand how my words about my grief were affecting my spending.
What?
And
wait,
what?
That's
really interesting.
Yes.
How tell us.
Well, as I was saying earlier, is that I was judging my grief. I was judging myself. And then I also had this idea I needed to be positive all the time. So I was spending like thousands of dollars on self-help books. I was buying self-help programs. And and this part doesn't even make sense. I hate to read. Right? Yes. But I bought like stacks of self-help books because I thought I would read them and get positive out of it, but I would just buy them and then be done, because it was like, this doesn't do anything. I don't want to read. It's too exhausting.
If you collect them, then you will somehow absorb the knowledge and feel better or something.
But what I realized is that when we were buying stuff, we get a hit of dopamine in our brain. And that was something I never understood. So I had taught personal finance for 16 years, right? And here I am, a personal finance teacher, overspending. And I'm like, so the 16 years that I taught, it's not even working for me. Like, why am I not able to stick to a budget? And it was because I didn't understand that I was shopping to feel better because I felt like shit all the time. I didn't know how to feel my feelings. And then when I'm judging myself for being 3 years out because I should be over this by now, or I should be doing a better job shitting all over myself, right? I was making myself feel bad. So when I started watching the words I was saying, I stopped overspending by thousands of dollars because just accepting where I was in my grieving process and watching the words that I was saying about it, I didn't even have a budget and I was cutting my spending down by thousands of dollars.
So when you were noticing your thoughts, did you then replace it with a different thought where you kind of wanted to have your mindset go, or did you just notice it and let it go by and then continue on?
It was definitely a process. It was accepting the fact. I think, again, it goes back to the main things that I teach in my coaching program is that there is no time limit to grief. And when I was like, oh, you mean I can be sad 4 years out, 5 years out, and that doesn't mean I'm doing something wrong? Really? Like, that is how it works? Then it started to remove the judgment of it all. So then when I was feeling sad, I wasn't beating myself up, thinking that I was being negative because I needed to be positive. So I wasn't going and spending money on that. Being okay with being upset or like what people call bad emotions or negative emotions, like knowing that those emotions are normal and owning the fact that I'm pissed off about something or I don't like the way my kids are behaving. I could then own it. And then I wasn't going and searching and trying to find, well, there's got to be something wrong with me, or I got to find a better way to like parent my kids. Oh no, it's okay. I can just be mad and it's okay.
I have one child who has a huge need for that purchasing dopamine. And we've actually had that conversation. Like, you realize that the reason you want this is because when you get something new, it makes you feel good. But it only makes you feel good for like a really short amount of time. And then you don't care about that new thing anymore. I'm like, over and over and over, we have to have this new toy. And you get it and you're like super happy for 12.5 seconds. And then that toy is on the floor and it's on to the next one because it's not about the toy. It's about the dopamine. It's about that excitement. It's about that feeling like life is good, for that however long it lasts, which isn't long. And which is why it's just like any addiction, like you have to keep going back for it over and over. So that's interesting that you were trying to self-soothe in a way from those grief feelings with just buying crap. Well, maybe it wasn't crap. Maybe it was
well, and
stuff.
what I loved the most was subscription boxes.
Oh
My gosh. Yeah, those were so fun because I had one. So that's a dopamine hit because I get to pick it out. Then they would send you a notification that it was coming, another hit. Then I would be at work and it would show up. Oh, it's there. I got the email that's been delivered. So another hit. Then I get to open it. Oh, and you see, well, first of all, you got to see the box when you get there. That's another hit. So you actually, with online shopping, my gosh, that's why it's so addicting because you do always get to get these little hits along the way.
You know, it's so funny too, because I mean, we've all done this, I think, as grievers.
Oh, yeah.
Gotten on Amazon and we all have so much stuff. And I have recently started doing it again because I've been in EMDR for other things. And so I noticed that like the first like 4 or 5 sessions, I would like go buy the weirdest things after because for some reason it made me feel better. But what I noticed that was so funny is if something was not like in the Amazon Prime window of delivery, like I didn't even know, I just bought it, like I wasn't even thinking, and say it took like 2 weeks to get there, when it arrived, I didn't get the dopamine hit. It was only when I would spend and be like, yes, I got the thing and it's going to come. And then I forgot about it totally. So it's
Yeah.
so stupid.
But I think I want to say too, it's not that it's stupid. It's that we understand what our brain is doing. And then when we understand it, we're like, oh, well, that makes sense now. And I think so many people don't understand why they're overspending. And if I could go back and teach personal finance again, I would teach a whole thing on like money behavior and how there is this hit of dopamine. I mean, psychology and money, there's so much to it. Like they are so combined, like money is so freaking emotional.
Yeah. So widows, we kind of have this spectrum of money, I'll say issues, just for lack of a better word, because for some people, when their person dies, their spouse or their partner dies, it sends them into a really bad place financially. They lost one income. They might not have had life insurance. Like a lot of people did not have life insurance. They've just become really in a financially bad position where they're trying to keep the house, find new jobs, go back into the workforce. So we have that spectrum. And then we also have the spectrum of people who did maybe have life insurance or end up financially better off than they were before, which is another like hard thing to wrap your head around. Somebody posted in the Widow Wives Club just the other day about taking their life insurance check to the bank. And, like for most people, depositing a huge sum of money into the bank would be like a really cool thing to do, but it like just decimates them because they know the price of that. And so we've got this, these two extreme edges, and both of them come with so many emotions. And so it's like there's not just one set of emotions, but there's a lot of money emotions that come particularly in the widowhood experience.
Yeah. And I think, I've had several widows talk to me about the life insurance money. And a lot of them, I've heard the phrase, it's like blood money because someone had to die to get that money. And I like to look at it as this was my husband and my way of taking care of us in case something happened. So this money was my husband's way of helping us take care of the family. And I don't know if it's because when we got life insurance, we did it together. Like it wasn't like, just his company's life insurance policy. We had bought separate life insurance policies together. It was also a topic that I talked to my students about. It's funny because one of my students was like, yeah, we knew you were going to be financially okay because you'd already told us in class that you had bought life insurance. And I'm like, yeah, so to me, it was a topic that I had just always talked about. And so I think it's interesting how I never had the negative connotation about it. At least I don't remember. I will say that. It has been a while, but I really don't remember that I felt bad about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe because I'm comfortable with it. And it's something that I was like, no, thank God we did this.
Even malpractice, okay, when people have insurance, let's say, for example, I wanted to get my husband's death investigated and see if there was medical malpractice. I know a lot of widows have had to do that, and there's a lot of emotions around that, but it's people have insurance for a reason. This part is business. I mean, and if you were fortunate, I guess, enough to have life insurance, because here I'm a widow that doesn't have it.
Yeah.
It's serving its purpose. So it's interesting. I haven't heard it called blood money before, maybe because I never got any, but right. I think that's when people get murdered and there's diamonds in Africa involved. So anyway.
Yeah.
It is one of those things though that also you get to choose how you think about it, right?
Yes.
You get to think about it as your husband's, trading your husband's life or your spouse's or your partner's life for that money, or you can think about it kind of as like you were saying, like a gift. And I think both of those things are super common to feel both of those things. Some of the comments on that post I was talking about were like, oh, I saw it as that we had adulted together and we had made a decision that helped, that we actually needed. And so I felt proud of us, or, felt that kind of gift. But I do think it's a little bit tricky because I feel like some widows don't want to talk about it because they are sensitive to the flip side of that coin, so they don't want to flaunt it in quotation marks. Or the other thing that I think is really interesting is that people don't want to talk about it because they don't want their pain to be minimized because they did have life insurance. Like people are like, oh, well, if you had life insurance, then you have nothing to worry about. Wrong, right? I still have a dead person and my life to live, even though I had my house paid off, so.
I think you're emotionally set because you have money.
Yeah, which it does help. Like, let's be honest, it's very helpful, but also it doesn't solve anything either.
Right. I mean, I like to talk about life insurance, and I really am advocating for, people that are, the couples and stuff that are young and that are still alive. I'm like, dude, you have no idea. Yeah, how they're still alive. It is important to get life insurance because it makes that one aspect of my life so much easier. I mean, I did not have to worry about paying my bills on top of grieving and all that other stuff. I mean, so it made it easier in an area, but overall, no. And I think the problem with being able to talk about having life insurance or not having life insurance is we just don't talk about money in general. We're a society that's like, money is this topic that we don't talk about. But the problem is, it is as deep of a problem as like sex and kids and, all of those things. And if we don't talk about it, then we can't get better at it. And I think that's one of the reasons why I have worked on, talking more about money in my coaching business. And so I know a while ago you asked me how I got to it. I learned about the life coaching stuff, and my teacher was like, you should definitely be doing money stuff. And so I paired the life coaching with the foundations of creating a plan for people's monies, because you do have to do both. You have to have a plan for what you want to do with your finances. You can't stick your head in the sand too long with it.
Wait, that's what I do too. Shoot.
You're talking about Anita. So tell us what your program involves and how does one find you?
I basically teach two parts to my coaching program. We look a lot at, the first part is just the numbers aspect, like creating a plan, understanding finances in general. Because I just had a woman she's not a widow, but she inherited some money and she wants to put it into stocks and all this other stuff. And she's so nervous about it. Like, we don't talk about like what investments are. Like, investments are a huge game. And the investment world likes to keep us in the dark, and they like to make it hard and scary. And once you know how to play the game, it's so much easier. And once you understand the verbiage, it's easier to deal with. But even the stock market right now, I mean, my goodness, it goes up and down, and there's so many emotions involved in that. So I work with people on the money piece. So again, we create a plan, make sure that you feel comfortable with understanding all aspects of finances. I do not give tax advice, investment advice, or insurance advice. Basically, what I can do is teach you about those concepts, help you pick out advisors or agents that can help you with those things. And then the other piece that I do is we really look at the emotional piece of really why you're not sticking to the plan. Meaning, like, if you decided to only spend $500 on groceries, why did you spend $700 or $800 on groceries? Now,
Oreos
or Cotopaxi bags.
Yeah.
That wasn't in the groceries budget, Mel.
Yeah.
That was not in the budget at all.
Yeah. So it's looking at now, of course, with like prices going up, where you adjust it to that. But I love going to Aldi's, and do you guys have Aldi's?
No, but we know what Aldi's is.
Okay,
It's a grocery store.
Yeah, it's a grocery store, and it has like the one aisle that has like all the fun goodies and stuff. And oh my gosh. Oh yeah. Like
I need an Aldi's in my life.
Yeah. So I go down there and I'm like, man, but there is some kind of emotion that's being brought up by that I did not plan for. So, it's looking at that and then at the same time, not beating yourself up when you make mistakes.
Yeah.
And especially for me as a finance teacher, I was like, I should be doing this better. Well, I didn't know how to grieve. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Nobody teaches us how to grieve.
Right.
So we talked a little bit about this. I actually did a little mini, I don't know if it was mini, but a little coaching session with you on this yesterday. And one of the things you talked to me about, which it was very funny because we quickly moved away from money and talked about all sorts of other things, mostly parenting. But it was interesting that you talked about, we said that budget was a bad word and it was, we're going to plan. And also reframing things as what we're saying yes to instead of what we're saying no to. And I think just both of those concepts were like, of course we kind of know them, but then when somebody else kind of, helps you to look back at your own brain and you're like, oh, duh, of course. Just both really interesting concepts and something that you can help people be able to talk through, right?
Right. So one of the things that, like I said, Anita said, was that I do not use the word budget because budget is like the word diet. Nobody likes them because they feel so restrictive. Like you can't like live with, it's like you're just basically telling yourself, no, you can't have things. So what I like to do is I like to call it a plan, a spending plan. Like you're making a plan for what you want to do. And then what I also do is I help you create what's called a yes list. And this yes list is what you want to say yes to. So if you're going to go to, let's say, you're saving for a trip, you want to take your kids on a trip, or you want to go to Camp Widow, right? And you're like saving for Camp Widow, and a new pair of shoes show up and you're like, oh man, I really wish I could get those shoes. If you told yourself, no, you can't get those shoes, your mind is going to obsess about those shoes. Why can't I have those shoes? I want those shoes. I want those shoes. And your brain is just going to like spin on them. Whereas if you tell your brain like, we're not going to get that because we want to get this over here, then you're focusing on what you're actually wanting instead of what you can't have. Like, I want to go to Camp Widow. So that $55 or $70 or $100 on those shoes is going to go over here to my Camp Widow fund. And so that is really what's important, is that you think about what you want to be spending your money on. It's easy to say no to something when you have something over here to say yes to.
Excellent. I think that's great advice. I said yes to almost $6,000 worth of braces today for one of my kids. So feeling a little sensitive about that right now, guys.
Yes.
Wow.
It's fine.
So Tina, where does somebody find you and your resources?
So I am on Instagram at Widow's Wallet. And I also have a website called widowswallet.com.
We will link to that in the show notes, everybody.
Tina, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for bringing your expertise. We have an important question that we have to ask you before we can let you go.
Oh boy.
And
should I be nervous?
Yes.
You might need to be. It's a question that you probably did not prepare for in your coaching programs or in teaching high school or any of those things.
Oh my gosh. I'm really nervous.
Yeah. It's really, really hard. And like, you've already been through death and all this stuff. It's harder than that. Are you ready?
Is it going to be who's picking out who's the coolest host here? Like,
oh, it's even worse.
Oh,
it's harder.
Okay.
What is your favorite cheese?
Colby Jack.
Easy, but hard.
She said yes to Colby Jack. She didn't say no to the other cheeses.
No, I'm just saying yes to Colby Jack.
And she's being kind to herself and her decisions because it's part of life.
Thought work, guys. Thought work.
Yeah, that is my choice right there. Like, no judging it at all.
Thank you, Tina, so much for joining us. If you guys have some issues around money or you have some things that you would like to discuss, you can find Tina on Instagram and set up some call. You do like a free introductory call with people, don't you?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So you can set that up with her. We know that widows have lots of issues with money. Money's weird. Money comes with emotions. So check her out. If you want to keep the podcast going, speaking about money, go to our Patreon, patreon.com/WWDN. It's a way that you can support the podcast and keep it rolling.
If you'd like to buy us tacos, go to buymeacoffee.com/widowwedonoww.
And if neither of those things work, you can always give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And until we get to talk to you again, I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
I'm Tina.
We are just two young widows and the guru of money. And we are all just trying to figure out widow
We
do
Now.
This is my favorite thing to discuss with you.
Tell me, what is it?
One of my favorite things. I do enjoy tacos and cheese and dogs. This is about how you cannot pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a phone plan, especially when you're a widow, your person is dead, you might have kids, you might need another option, and you just want your phone to work, you want unlimited texting and service, and you want it to be like $25 a month.
It blows my mind that they have plans that start at $15 a month. That is so cheap. And the cool thing is it uses other 5G networks, and so you don't have to pay extra for that, and you still get great service.
Yep, Anita and I have traveled all over, and I have used my phone. So I highly recommend it. And my mom's even on it. When my dad died, we put his phone down to the cheapest plan, which is $15 a month. And I think my mom's on the $20 a month plan, and it's so worth it. It's so much cheaper than what we were all paying before. So I highly recommend it if you're on a budget or not. Who cares? Ryan Reynolds is in charge of the company, and they send you free stickers with Ryan Reynolds temporary tattoos. It's kind of the best. So if somebody wants to sign up, what can they do, Anita?
Go to trymintmobile.com/WWDN. Seriously, you guys, such a great idea. Save yourself some money.
And if you're worried about losing data or having any changes with your phone, not going to happen. They walk you through it. Everything's fine. It's the easiest process of all time. Again, that's
trymintmobile.com/WWDN.